Here we are, human emotions and the origin of bioethics. Let's start this journey. These are the brainstorming questions that I took into consideration when I planned the investigation of the connection between emotions and bioethics. So, should emotions be part of our professional and personal life? We cannot deny that our emotions can come and go and have the power of influencing our view of reality in a way that is very changeable and somewhat unstable. So, as professionals, we've been trained more and more so to keep our emotions aside and have a clear mind, a clear, logical, rational mind into what we're doing. In my research, I question this assumption, partly because most of our life happens at work. We have to work in order to survive. So, training our life in setting aside emotions generate a time-wise imbalance in our life to occur, because for more than half of our life we tell our emotions you're not welcome here. So personally, that would already affect our well-being. Plus, I wonder, do we want to be treated on an emotion way? Do we want to be treated in an emotionless way from our teachers, our doctors, I don't know, our lawyers, and so on and so on? Certainly, we don't want their emotions to be all over the place and disrupt our daily life or what we want to achieve. We ask for our lawyer to be as stable as possible, to our doctor to be lucid when she's performing a surgery on us, our teacher to be fair. But yet, the question is, if these people, if these professionals are trained in suffocating their emotions, in putting aside their emotions, in suppressing somehow the emotions, are we really treated in a healthy emotional way? I mean, are we really receiving a treatment that is balanced, lucid, rational, stable, as we hope to? Mm. So this is the kind of problematization that I brought up, and I think this invests most of our notions of well-being. In fact, my second question would be, should doctors, architects, mental health professionals, social workers, teachers, lawyers, fitness trainers, bus drivers. Here I include any kind of profession one might take. Of course, in bioethics, we care more about those professions that have to do with well-being and environment. But should these professions be considerate of their own emotions and the emotions of their clients? Or do we risk to get lost in the maze that emotions create around our lives? In this presentation, I'm going to bring up the case of depressed doctors who cannot bring up their an actual reflection on their emotional lives, and they tend to live most of their lives in a state of depression that creates a deep distance and disconnection with themselves and their clients. The same things for architecture. I mean, building creating unemotional structures buildings that do not take into consideration the emotional well-being of the people who are going to be there uh, might certainly be disruptive for our life. The main point I'm going to discuss, I'm going to defend is we are human beings, and as such, our emotions are parts of our life. Pretending to be objective and scientific by simply surgically removing emotions would create sciences that are not for humans, because they do not take into consideration one of the most important elements of being humans. So my last brainstorming question would be, to what extent bioethics can contribute to emotional well-being, and to what extent emotions may impact a functioning bioethics? What's the connection between a bioethics that uh, that is built to provide sustainable well-being for human beings and their environment, and how these bioethics can help us to sustain our well-being, emotional well-being included. So in this presentation, I'm going to discuss, of course, what I mean by bioethics, because I have a very specific idea of integral bioethics, and to what extent the connection between bioethics and emotions is beneficial to our well-being and to the sustainability of this well-being. The structure of this talk would be the following. I will give you a description of the bioethics I have in mind and how we got there. Of course, bioethics is a new discipline, which makes the reconstruction of its history somewhat easier, but it's wide. At this point, we find bioethics in almost every room of our figuratively speaking house. So I want to be clear with you and give you the sense for what kind of bioethics I'm referring to. Then I will discuss some points about the connection between emotions in bioethics, so how beneficial emotions are for bioethics and what bioethics can do for our emotional well-being. And I will bring concrete cases. The first group of cases will be on what emotions can do for bioethics. So what kind of bioethics we would have if we include emotions in bioethics. And the second cases would be what bioethics can do for a stable emotional life. And in these two cases, I will consider a number of examples I can provide to you, both from literature and my personal experience as a philosophical counselor. I'm going to consider bioethics from a top-down and a bottom-up approach. My talk is mostly inspired by these two recent books I just published, and the third book that just came out with Springer. So the third book is A Phenomenology of Bioethics, a Lived Experience and Technoethics, and these two books are exactly on the point of human emotions, and one, The Origin of Bioethics, and the other one, the role that bioethics can have in emotional problems. One book has philosophical approach to the issue. This second one draws on the cases I studied, I work with my practice as a philosophical counselor. All right, so for now, I will stop here, and my next chapter, as I announced you before, is on the history of bioethics. Looking forward to seeing you there.